If you want to learn how to create more content that generates leads, this episode is for you. My next guest breaks down strategies on how to create highly marketable blog posts, lead magnets, and email templates using ChatGPT. Please welcome Gen Furukawa. Gen, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sean. Thanks for having me.
All right, before we dive in, if you could, tell us something about yourself that most people don't know.
Sure. So I grew up in New York City. I grew up playing a lot of tennis, and I was actually a ball boy at the US Open in 1998 after getting rejected. So this is like around the time Seinfeld was big, and Kramer had his episode of being a ball boy. And I got rejected as a ball boy, which kind of stumped me because I thought it was pretty good. But I was a ball boy for several years after, and it was a paid job, and I got to go to the US Open every day for 2 weeks that year, both years. It was fantastic.
What a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm not a big tennis player, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the exposure you get to top level players, that's pretty cool.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, that's a first for this episode. Nobody's been a ball boy in tennis. All right. Let's dive into your career background. If you could take a few minutes here and just tell us about your history.
Yeah, sure. So I'm founder of supermarketers.ai. It's a B2B demand gen company. But I got into this because I sold a B2B SaaS company last year. So it was a quiz builder called Prehook. Helped Shopify merchants ask a few questions, capture an email, SMS or email, and then recommend a product. And so this is something that I co-founded with two people that I worked with when I was at Jungle Scout, and Jungle Scout is an Amazon product research tool, the leader in the space. I was head of marketing there. And so I've been in the e-commerce space for 7 years. And then, we bootstrapped Prehook, and that was kind of by design, something that we wanted to do in order to maintain autonomy, to have our own kind of autonomy and hear the guidelines that we want, or the milestones that we want to hit on the timeline that we want to hit them. And so that was something that we did. The downside is a little more tight with resources. And after we sold it, I realized that I wasn't necessarily taking advantage of everything that I could have with AI, with automation. Granted, ChatGPT had not quite launched at that point, but this world of automation, I knew about it, but I didn't leverage it. So that's how I got into really focusing on how AI and automation can scale the what you can do, the resources, the efficiency, the speed with which a marketer. I'm a marketer, so that's why it matters to marketers. But whether you're a designer, whether you're a writer, it's developer, whatever, how AI can empower you to do so much more at such a fraction of the cost.
Right on. We're going to get into AI tips and tactics, how to help marketers. But I just have to ask this question high level here. You sold the SaaS business. A lot of people that do that go and create another SaaS. You decided to go create an agency. Why did you choose that path?
Well, I still want to build out a SaaS. And the reason why it was because, I think it's good to kind of like establish some kind of cash flow or something. Building a SaaS does have some lead time and dev time. And so my thought is, let's understand where there are opportunities, and things are changing so fast. I mean, even a year ago, people were doing really well with these, GPT wrappers, it'd be like built on OpenAI with a different user interface. So you couldn't necessarily tell. But I didn't necessarily know exactly what that would be. So now I do want to get into it again, and going to figure out, what that is. This time around, though, I do think that there are no-code tool builders, something like a Bubble and something like a Make.com, where you're able to build the front end and it operates, looks like a SaaS. The user experience is exactly the same as a standalone software as a service, but on the back end, the requirements and the build out are far less because you're leveraging these no-code tools like Bubble and Make.
Right on. I got to break the fourth wall already, talk to the audience. So what Gen is talking about here is, and I see this more and more with SaaS founders, is you create a service business first, like an agency, kind of with a wider spectrum, but you start talking to customers, serving customers, making some money, and you figure out the problems along the way. You have an idea at a high level, but serving them with a service is a great way to make money, before you go create a SaaS that nobody wants.
Yes.
So I see the play. You're going to provide the service first, figure out what the needs are, figure out what the pain is, and then create your SaaS. It's a great way to make money and find find product market fit along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a goal for sure.
Okay, smart. All right. Let's dive into, I see the phrasing in your marketing material here, AI powered demand gen. What does that mean?
Yeah. So basically, like I was saying, there's so much more that you can do with AI, even if it's just to get, past a blank screen, of here, let's start with something. We know the keyword that we're going to target. Let's create an outline. Let's create the content, and then let's have a human review it. And so demand gen is really just, it could be anything related to creating demand. So brand awareness, inbound lead gen. Lead gen is a subset of demand gen, and I'm focused specifically on inbound. So that is where you are actually creating the content to establish the thought leadership, to build the brand awareness without relying on performance marketing, like paid ads or
Oh,
affiliate or
okay.
partnership. So I am focusing on creating the content. So that includes blog posts, email, organic social, video, lead magnets, and really kind of one of the key metrics there is capturing an email. So whether you are a PLG, so a product-led growth, or sales-led motion, ultimately you want to start building a relationship so you can educate them, indoctrinate them on the problem that you're solving, the product and how it solves that particular problem. And so that will generally start with an email and then maybe move on to a demo call or a trial.
Got it. So essentially, high level here to rephrase back to you is use AI to create content. So it's essentially using AI to be more efficient in content generation with the end goal to collect more email addresses.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
emails is one proxy, maybe one leading indicator. Ultimately, it is to increase revenue,
Right
and
on.
so that moves to trials, to demo calls, to signups.
Sure, sure. So people probably want to go here next. I can always feel my audience tapping me on the shoulder, like, Sean, you got to ask this question. So this is probably where they want to go, which is how are you using AI to, we're going to get tactical here. How do you
Yeah, yeah.
use it to get more efficient at, let's say, writing emails or creating blog posts, or I know email sequences to nurture your audience is really big. So give us some examples here of how are you using AI?
Yeah, sure. So to start, it always helps to, and I'll walk you through the process of how I work with clients. So initially, it starts with research. So that's competitive analysis. That's understanding the positioning, the brand voice, the product itself, and how it stands out. And so from that basically distills down into an idea for myself, and then also how that translates into the content itself. What type of content would be most helpful? And so generally, I'd like to break that down into 3 to 5 buckets, clusters, topic clusters. And then from there, more specific keywords and long tail keywords. And so I can actually share, later I'll send you some
Sure.
prompts where you can actually have ChatGPT help with this process. And then I also like to take a data-driven approach. So this is when you're doing keyword research. What are those search terms that have a certain amount of search volume? So every month, how many people are searching for them? And then also, if you're looking at a keyword tool, say Ahrefs or SEMrush, any other tool, there might be some notion of keyword difficulty, how competitive it is to rank for that particular keyword. And so ideally, you're going to find keywords that have some search volume and not a lot of keyword difficulty. And so that's kind of like getting the lay of the land. And then from there, actually using AI to run through the process of creating the content, I found it actually most helpful to start by creating an outline. So you would simply like find your keyword. So say, for example, it's like, if we say use a ticker example, like how to increase your investment strategy or whatever,
Yeah.
improve your investment strategy. You would take that keyword, drop that into Google, then you can find the top results for that particular
Mm,
keyword. Take those URLs, drop them into ChatGPT, and then you'd say, help me understand this, why these pages are ranking for this keyword. And you can be specific. You can say, what's the H1, the title, the H2s, H3s, the
Yeah.
LSI keywords, latent semantic index keywords. What's the theme? And so you can do this for, say, 3 to 5 of the top results. And then so now you have an understanding of the competitive landscape. And then you're going to actually combine that into your own outline. And you want to incorporate your own brand voice, maybe your own product, so it is more unique to you and not just regurgitating what the top search engine results page results are. Because that doesn't do you any favors, or Google is not going to reward you for regurgitating what top results are. You need to add your own unique flavor to it. You do that in the outline. And then when you're actually creating the outline, or once you have the outline created, then you actually create the post. And I like to do it section by section. It turns out to be a more detailed and robust post if you're doing it section by section, as opposed to now take this outline and write a whole post immediately.
Right. And just to drill into that, I know some people have done homework, and using AI to write an entire article there can be a negative effect, because search engines, and I want to hear your feedback on that, but it's like search engines like Google be like, you're using AI to write the whole thing. You kind of want a blend like of your own voice in your own language, but you can also have AI write sections of it. So do you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, I like to, as a human, review the whole thing,
Yeah, yeah.
and kind of like add my own voice to it. But there are also ways that you can help the AI, the output, to be better. So, there's a few shot prompt, this notion of few shot prompts, where you're uploading examples of this is what the ideal output is, because ultimately the AI output would kind of pattern match to the inputs that you're giving it, including examples. Then you can also use, don't use these words, or don't use fluffy jargon,
Mhm.
in a fast-paced world, or, this is all those like AI phrases that,
Right.
the second you see it, unleash, unlock, whatever. So there's that. And then, yeah, you can use different phrases. People say, like, if you say use perplexity or perspicacity, that's kind of like changing the tonality or the length of sentences. You can alternate sentences. For me, when I'm doing having like help with drafting or revising social content, for example, like on LinkedIn, I will specify, like one line per paragraph, one sentence per paragraph, because, generally, and especially these days, people don't necessarily read, but you want to make things easily scannable. And if you have not so much like dense blocks of text, but easier to read, shorter, that helps. So all these little prompts that might mimic your own style would ultimately lead to a better AI output. And then furthermore, you can actually just reverse engineer, your own content. So Sean, if you have a post that you spend a lot of time on, and it generates a lot of traffic for you, you can ask the AI to, reverse engineer. What's the formatting? What's the style? How would you describe this writing? And then use that as kind of like the input for how you'd want the AI to write for you.
Right on. So you really gave a nice overview here of how to write blog posts, like an SEO rich blog post. And you could do this. I tell people, if you're writing blogs, and I'd love to hear your comments on this, is try to think of like the top 10, top 15, top 20 most frequently asked questions your customers ask, and create blog post articles against that. So when they're searching Google, they should theoretically find those articles, depending on, of course, how much traffic you have and how well your SEO is. But would you kind of recommend the same strategy?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great way to start too. Is basically like question-based keywords.
Yeah.
So you can use SEMrush or Ahrefs to
Yeah.
filter specifically for questions, or you can use tools. Detailed.com has a Chrome extension that basically, for a particular keyword, it will export the people also ask. So in a Google search result, you'd see other search queries that people who ask, how would I improve my investment strategy? There would be similar queries that Google will show you on that page. Detail.com just makes it easy to export that. So answer Socrates, detail.com, keywordtool.io, another way that you can just find the search queries. You have to pay if you want to see the volume, but all these are other ways that you can identify related questions to those main keywords that you're trying to target.
Right on. Okay. So a lot of good tips here with blogs. What other marketing tools? You mentioned email, you mentioned lead magnets. You want to talk about that a little bit too?
Yeah, sure. In what regard, like the content generation?
Yeah, how would you use AI to streamline your approach of creating? Like, let's get into because email is something we do a lot of, and I think I've talked to a few other people about email. But do you use AI to help you kind of optimize a lead magnet?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I do for actually like help with creating it. So for example, one use case, one example is like, let's find a list of conversion rate optimization tips. And so that's where, I've seen lead magnets that do well. And with that, I wanted to add a little more to it. And so you can actually get a list of your optimization tips, but you can go further. You can do whatever you want. So say if it's for a B2C finance investing tool, you can create basically like an output as a table. So in doing that, I would say, all right, let's create the investment strategies and of a smart investor. And so you'd say, what's the strategy, what's the tactics, what's the category, give me a detailed description and give me like the first steps to do this or the best resources. I'm just making this up, but you can
Sure.
get the output in a table, and then you could paste that table into, say, a Notion or Airtable. And that in itself becomes incredibly valuable. And especially when you can layer on these things, or you can enrich each particular cell or row of, with more details. And then maybe you're using a ticker tie-in in some ways.
Mhm.
These are ways that you can use AI to kind of like curate knowledge and also just add value. Once you understand what your ideal customer profile is like, what their questions are, what their problems are, and why did they exchange their email to opt into your lead magnet.
Right. And just to back up a second, again, I'll talk to the audience here. Audience, you probably know what a lead magnet is, but I'll just keep it really simple. I'll give you an example of what we do at Ticker. So when you join, we use a tool called ConvertBox. And what it does is you can set like you put a little snippet of code on your site, and if somebody lands on your site, you can set the duration, like for example, after 15 seconds or 30 seconds, or in our case, 45 seconds of browsing our site, a pop-up shows up. And it's 10 tips for beginners, and add your email to download a PDF right now. Like not 5 minutes from now, not 20 hours from now. It's like you get it right now. So that's the lead magnet because we want to attract those leads into our system. And when they get into our system, then we give them a drip sequence, providing them more educational content. But that tool has proven to work really well. So in the case of AI, I'm just thinking out loud here. We could probably brainstorm again some ideas, like behind the scenes, we could, or offline, I should say, of like, how do we optimize a more attractive title for the lead magnet? And then maybe formatting the content of the PDF, like, well, which is really just a Google Doc we exported to PDF, as simple
Mhm.
as that. Anyway, that's lead magnet, and your strategy here to help optimize that to maybe make it more attractive, more clickable. Just a thought.
Yeah, and then that's where AI can be really good is like you might have, say you're running ad campaigns and you're targeting one for beginners, then you might have one for advanced, then you might have like a real estate investment thing.
Yes.
So you can kind of like really niche down, and it's not going to be a bait and switch because the actual content would be specific for the niche that you specify.
Right. That's okay. This is great for lead magnet. Any other tips here with optimizing a lead magnet before we jump over to email?
Tips for optimizing a lead magnet.
Yeah.
I mean, these days I think, the bar has raised for what a lead magnet is, and I think people expect more value. And so if it's like kind of some fluffy piece, is not going to be as actionable or helpful. So the way that I like to try and do things is to make it as actionable as possible. And I think you're a great example of, you have a free trial or freemium, right? And then that's probably as good as you can get, free access to the tool itself so
Right.
they can extract their value. Short of that, maybe it is some checklist or template or something that's more immediately useful. So that's how I try to think of what these offers would be, is something that would be actionable and tie as closely as possible to the actual offer of the product.
I like where you're going there because you're right. A lot of people don't want the fluff pieces. They want like this podcast is a great example. They want tactical strategies they can use today. And with a lead magnet, how I would optimize it using AI is trying to find out what are the things in my case, my audience, retail investors, what do they want to learn most? What are tactical strategies they can use today? And I would probably use back and forth prompt engineering with ChatGPT to drill into those and then create some kind of document. And I like to use simple numbers. Don't be like, here's 27 tips. It's like, keep it like 5, 7, 10, keep it relatively short and just get to the point, but they better be tactical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's transition to email. Email marketing is still so hot. I had one of my buddies go to a conference about email marketing, and an executive from Target was there talking about still a massive amount of revenue. I forgot the number, but it was in the billions, is generated just from email marketing alone. So some people say, like, well, email marketing is dead. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it's far from dead. So, how do you use AI to optimize email?
Yeah. So for email, I generally do it like I do it most often for myself. And so I actually use a custom GPT where I have, so custom GPT is in ChatGPT. You can basically create your own bot where you're adding custom instructions. So this is what your background is. This is the format of the newsletter. This is the topic. This is the points that we want to have. And for me, for example, I have a more specific structure. For supermarketers, it's an acronym for strategy, use case, prompt, exercise, and resource. So each of those, every email would be kind of broken out into that format. And so what I like to do is I just basically will either drop in some text of the type of email that I'm trying to cover, or I'll actually just open up the custom GPT in ChatGPT and then talk into the app. So I want to write an email about this strategy. I want it to cover these points. And then I'll get a draft from the custom GPT. And then, so for example, there's also some nuances of it where the email will start with a quote. So I like to have a
Mm.
quote at the top of, whatever, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, a supermarketer, and then break into the intro. And then, the outro will be like, stay supermarketers, all those like small things. But I added that to the custom instructions. So the output does include those. And so it's just a nice way to kind of like shortcut how the time you understand what you want to include, but it makes it easier in terms of the formatting, the structure, and maybe coming up with ideas to flesh out those initial seeds of the idea.
Right on. Okay. Let's take a quick commercial break. All right, the TYKR mobile app for both iOS and Android is now live. It includes all the same features as the web app, including stocks, ETFs, crypto, a watch list alerts, so if something changes, you automatically get notified, a portfolio tracker, and a confidence booster powered by OpenAI. Plus, it includes learning modules inspired by Duolingo, in this case investing learning modules to help you get up to speed as fast as possible. If you're interested, you can go to TYKR.com. You'll see the Apple and Google logos right up top, or you can go to the Apple App Store or Google Play Store and download the app for free. All right, back to the show. And then as far as the format, email, like what I've learned is, let's say you're doing a campaign and you're promoting something, is each email, let's say it was like over 2 weeks, 5 emails, just throwing out random numbers here. Every email in my case, and I learned this from a few other marketers, is every email should be a little shorter. So your first email is a little longer, more context. And then you want to get shorter as you go. So that last email, right to the point, like this deal ends in 24 hours, grab it now, bam, that's it. So do you kind of do the same thing with your email marketing sequences?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
But like I actually don't do a lot of like discrete like campaigns like that. So
Okay.
if I do one with a client, it might be more of like the onboarding flow. So it's
Sure.
not leading towards like an event. So I don't do that, but I certainly think that what you're saying makes sense. And then also kind of switching between a highly designed, more visual email and then maybe a text-based simple email, always keeping one call to action, making it simple, making it very clear for the reader to know what it is that they should be doing.
Got it. And to kind of talk about what we do at our levels, we have a few different types of sequences. The main one is onboarding or nurturing, which is all content value add education, which is probably what a lot of what you're doing. Like, for example, we do like 20 plus tips over 20 days. Every day you get a new tip, whether it's like when to buy, when do you sell, how to use this feature in Ticker, stuff like that. And so we really focus on, again, value add. We're not selling anything. And we could use ChatGPT to help formulate or change the contents a little bit. We could also use, like you mentioned, a good idea here, use a quote from somebody like, in our case, we could use Warren Buffett, use a quote there and incorporate this quote into this article in some way, shape, or form. And ChatGPT could output content that we could copy and paste and maybe rework a little bit if needed. But that's a good approach to create a nurturing campaign, is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
for you also, like it could be a term, a financial term, and that's something
Mhm.
that you can have AI do. And that
Yes.
that actually reminds me another good use case of AI that people are, I think maybe the window is limited here, but programmatic SEO. So programmatic SEO is basically creating content that follows a certain template and format. So Yelp is a good example where they have, like a category and a city. So best blank in
Oh,
blank. So best coffee shop in Chicago, best physical trainer in Milwaukee, and so, all these things, and you can get very granular there. But once you have the template, once you understand what you're trying to accomplish, that's a great use case for how AI can do this, help you scale. The caveat there is that you don't just want to, again, regurgitate content because that wouldn't be as good. You're not adding kind of like a unique perspective, but AI is good there. So maybe you have some unique data points. Maybe you have from Ticker a lot of proprietary data or benchmarks that you could use. But that's something that's helpful.
right, right. What I was thinking of too, you kind of touched on this a little bit, is whatever your service is, your product or service, it's important to break it down in simple terms. So like finance is known to like make things super overcomplicated. Let's use $20 words. It just drives me nuts. But
Yeah.
anyway, you could go to ChatGPT and plug in like take this phrase or this term and give me 1 to 2 sentences in simple terms. Like you could do that with ChatGPT and it'll spit out something that's written in a way where a third grader could understand it.
Yeah.
Kind of tactic you use there. I think that strategy there works really well for both the blog posts and the emails that are being sent out to your customers. Keep things simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever used the tool? It's HemingwayApp.com.
I know of it. I've used Grammarly,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
What this Hemingway app does is you can put in sentences and content, and it'll say what grade is it understandable, and you want to ideally get as low of a grade like third grade. Like, for example, investing for beginners. I'm just plugging in as we speak. I'm going to see that comes back as grade 10, which is a little high. You want to be like grade 3 or lower. It's very hard to get that low, but essentially what it does is it teaches you to put in or use content that a third grader can understand. And that is proven, from some marketers have used that tool, proven to increase conversions and make your site more approachable. Because there's some people that still want to, keep the complex language. And it's like, you're not doing yourself any favors.
No.
No.
Yeah, totally. Don't make me think. Yeah.
Yes, right. Just get to the point. What
Yeah.
what I like, I am trying to, solve pain. How are you doing that? Get right to the end result here. So, any other tips there on email that like how are you using AI to help out your email creation?
Yeah, so I do get ChatGPT help for the subject and preview text. So like I'll paste in the email, then paste in generally like what for my own email. I like to make it to focus on how to and have some promise of what someone would learn if they read it. And I like to start with an emoji to stand out in the inbox,
Okay.
though that doesn't work as well anymore. But yeah, so I'll just get like I want to focus on the how to. Here's the email. Give me 10 variations of a subject line and preview text for the email. And then you can add different things. You can add examples. You can add the types of things that you want. You can add copywriting frameworks. For example, like problem, agitation, solution, attention, interest, desire, action. So citing different frameworks is also helpful,
Yeah.
whether you're doing copy or email subject lines.
Awesome. All right. What I want to do next is do a roll up. I've got a bunch of key takeaways for the audience here, just kind of summarize, and then I'm going to ask you one more question. We'll get into the rapid fire round right after
All right.
that. So here we go. I took a bunch of notes here. There's really three categories. There's tactics for blogs, tactics for lead magnets, and tactics for emails. So with the blogs, I'm going to kind of summarize. We've got come up with questions. Number one is come up with questions. You can use tools like SEMrush or keyword tool.io. Did I get that right? Keyword
Mhm.
tool.io. Okay. Yep. Come up with your top questions. And you can also look in those platforms to see what other questions are being asked. But I do that a lot with my customers as I do surveys every so often. I ask, what are your top questions? I put them into Excel or Google Sheets. And that way I can keep a list of what is the highest count next to each question. And I use that as start point. All right. Number two, competitive analysis. Use ChatGPT for competitive analysis. You can come up with like 3 to 5 clusters. Find search terms with high volume. I like to use Google Trends, which is free. You can kind of compare different trends and next each other, which one is searched most. Create long tail words, and then you can use ChatGPT to summarize the title tags, H1s, and descriptions of your competitors, is what I wrote down before. I thought that was a smart tactic I haven't used. Number three within blogs, which is use AI to create the content. Write the outline first. Then number four, use ChatGPT to write your blog post section by section. I really love that idea. Don't do the whole thing. Go section by section, add your human touch to it. And also tell ChatGPT to get rid of the cliche marketing phrases such as unlock or unleash. Get rid of that noise. And then this is good too, is I forgot how it was phrased, but speed of readability, if that's a thing, is how, like, don't have big blocks. Do like maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 sentences per paragraph so people can get through the content faster, fast reading essentially. All right, moving on to that was number four. And then we're going on to number five, which is use AI to review blog posts that you already have written. That's the low hanging fruit. And then number six is programmatic SEO, such as, and I like your example of like best of in blank. I wrote down the example, best pizza restaurant in Chicago as a framework. Best marketing firm on SEO in Milwaukee. People get the idea. All right. So that was blogs. Lead magnet. I got 3 tips here. Find a list of conversation optimization or conversion optimization tips. You could find articles. You can use ChatGPT to shorten your search there. You can use AI to find out what people want most, and then use AI for different niches, like niching down. In my case, I could go to niches, not just investing, but investing for beginners, investing for advanced investors, investing for real estate, so on and so forth. All right, then getting to email, this was great. For creating content, use ChatGPT. You can plug in a quote from a famous person in your industry and create content around that. You can then tell ChatGPT to define complex words and phrases in simple terms. I like that for finance. And then also, this was really good, is use ChatGPT to come up with a few subject line and preview text options. That way you're not using your own brain power. It's like you kind of let ChatGPT shorten the work time, you could say, and give you a list to choose from. So there you go. Massive roll up there. A lot of great tips. Before we jump to the rapid fire round, what is one more key takeaway you can give our audience?
a key takeaway is I think the combination of AI. So, make.com and OpenAI creating assistants in OpenAI. So you go to platform.openai.com, create an assistant. And so that's where you can really customize these large language models, which are going to be very generic. You create an assistant where you're uploading your own specific proprietary information, like it could be your brand voice, it could be your good articles, it could be your product marketing stuff. But once you're able to create a robust assistant, and so Ticker could have assistants for product marketing, email, copy, blog posts, whatever it is, consider it like basically
Sure.
an employee, and then use make.com, which is an automation tool similar to Zapier, but Make is more robust. And then you're just kind of like creating different automation. So that I think is a huge unlock to saving time, saving money, doing more with less.
Right on. And just to hammer on something here, there's a lot of people out there that become fearful of AI, like it's going to take jobs away. And my response to that is if you're smart, you're going to find out how to use AI to make your job more efficient. It's not really going to replace jobs. It's like the jobs kind of changed a little bit, like the Industrial Revolution. Now we're using AI to work more efficient, become more specific, become more accurate, and how you use it really can separate you from other marketers out there. And it sounds like you're doing exactly that.
I'm trying. But yeah, I do agree. They say you're not going to lose a job to AI, you'll lose it to a person who uses AI.
Yes.
And yeah, you can just do so much more. And I think you can, in some ways, do it better. And you can, it's an instant way to level up your skills where you can do design stuff. You can, I'm
Mhm.
using it for like AI music for this, for the podcast. And there are just so many different use cases once you distill down what you're actually doing, and then maybe more so on a recurring basis, what are those tasks that you're doing? I'm pretty sure that you can find a way to use AI and automation to help you do that faster.
Right on. All right, let's jump into the rapid fire round. This is the part of the episode where we get to find out who Gen really is. If you can, try to answer each question in about 15 seconds or less. You ready?
Yes.
All right. What is your favorite podcast?
Uh, My First Million and the Startup Ideas podcast with Greg Eisenberg and Marketing Against the Grain.
Yes, very familiar with all three. Nice choices. All right. What is a recent book you read and would recommend?
2034 is a novel set in the future of 2034, but basically the start of World War III. And it was fascinating. It was scary. It was gripping. It was enlightening, and a reminder of we're teetering on the precipice of some dangerous times potentially.
Right. Okay. I don't want to go too deep into the weeds in the book, but is it AI that we're
Oh no
talking
no
like
no
Terminator,
no
like
no no!
Skynet? Okay.
It's very like geopolitical nuclear weapons type stuff.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. All right.
But it's realistic. It's not like a sci-fi.
Sci-fi. Like AI is going to be the trigger for World
No,
War
no, no,
III. Okay. Yeah.
no.
Just checking. All right. Moving on to the movie question. What is your favorite movie?
I'm a big basketball fan. I recently saw the Giannis movie, Giannis Antetokounmpo, on
Yep.
Amazon. There are a couple. The one on Amazon, the documentary was fantastic. I mean, that guy's story is so inspiring, where he grew up as an immigrant in Greece from Nigeria, family of four sons, and to get by, they basically sold trinkets around the tourist sites of Athens, and
Right.
they just like it was really the family bond that held them together all the way through to him becoming, some scrawny drafted player that nobody knew of in Milwaukee. So maybe you're a fan,
Oh yeah.
to, NBA champion, MVP, just an amazing story. So I really like that one.
I'm all in on that. I like a good sports documentary.
Well, it's not, but it's more than that. That's more of like,
Right.
yeah.
Right. All right. What is the worst advice you ever received?
Well, probably to sign a 4-year contract for a sales job soon after college, and then believing that was like kind of an enforceable contract. That was a little bit of a regrettable decision, but I did it,
Live and
and
learn.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I get right to the end here. You didn't stay 4 years, I assume.
Well, I did, but it was all part of the plan I had to go to business school, and And
Okay.
I have a few regrets, but that was a long time, more than I should have.
Okay. All right. Flip the equation. What's the best advice you ever received?
Um, to spend time with family, the kids. That I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, and just that the time goes by so quickly. I'm already seeing that, and so work can wait; it'll be there, but really enjoy the time while they're
Right.
young, while they want to hang out, and so I try to prioritize that as much as possible.
Right. Right. Good advice. All right. Last question here is the time machine question. If you could go back in time to give your younger self advice, what age would you visit and what would you say?
I would say probably, early 20s. It doesn't matter and no one cares. Like kind of like I felt like, oh, I needed to do this and this. So it ties into that 4-year
Yep.
job and the business school and the jobs and following a path. And like really I could have done other things and not been so constricted by what I thought I should do, but more like what I actually want to do, which I'm doing now. So I'm very happy I am here now.
You've arrived. There you go.
Yes.
All right. And where can the audience reach you?
Yeah, so I'm LinkedIn is a great place. Gen Furukawa. You're not going to see many Gen Furukawas, I don't
Mhm.
think. And then yeah, feel free to email Gen at supermarketers.ai. Happy to share any or elaborate on anything I touched on today.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. This is great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sean.
We'll see you.
Yep. Bye.